invest in people in the long term, there has to be a mutual understanding.
Hustle hard, hustle hard. Closed mouths don't get fed. Thinking strategically, but acting like a gorilla is the kind of marketing that's small. When it innovates very little, it's highly risk averse, and it indicates the
Okay, there they are. All right, cool. So these are the roles that leaders play. And if you can't tell, there's 11 of them. And so some of the roles that leaders play are figurehead. A figurehead represents the organization in a formal or symbolic way. The role is more about presence and legitimacy than decision making. So having somewhat of an understanding of being in front of people, representing your organization at meetings, at events, in the community, that's what a leader role is, to be the figurehead. An example is the department chair in a college attends a graduation ceremony and congratulates students on behalf of the college. By the way, when you all graduate, I will be there. So hopefully I can say congratulations to you as well. So that's an example of a figurehead. What else do leaders do? Well, leaders are spokespeople. They're spokespersons. What's a spokesperson? They communicate information from the organization to outsiders such as customers, media, or stakeholders. Very similar to a figurehead. I love this one, and I believe all of us at some level in our business career or just in our life have to master the art of negotiation. A lot of things are negotiations. We talked about trade-offs. Being a good negotiator, and it may sound like you're trying to manipulate or get up on somebody when you're negotiating, but no, negotiation is conflict management. Leaders need to be good negotiators with vendors, with suppliers, with employees, with potentially competitors, with customers. My father was amazing at this. He was in charge of sales, selling these amazing pools. I think I showed you some pictures of them in the last class, but we built these incredible pools. And these are, you think Aquaman is living in the house. There's a pool on every floor, and they're infinity edge, and the equipment runs along the entire side of the house. Just the equipment set alone is like $100,000 worth of equipment. And so these are crazy pools. And so we would have to bid these things, and then we would have to build a team and pitch it to the client. And we were always the highest bidder. And so what we would say is, before we would even decide to propose this pool, we said, look, we're not going to propose this pool unless you promise to meet with us. Because we send them a proposal because there's a timeline, and we're high, but we say, you promised a meeting. So we're going to come to the meeting and we're going to explain why the proposal is what it is, because we included the bells and whistles of this thing. We included a bunch of stuff because we believe that this is the pool that the client deserved, and it was called out, and we are the best quality pool installer. We have the best team. We have the best credibility. And so it was a negotiation. So from there, it set something called a framing in the customer's mind. We framed our prices. If you want the best of the best, it's going to be $1 million. But obviously, we could exclude certain things. Well, we could take out the tile finish, and that'll save you $250,000. Okay, so we'll do what kind of finish do you recommend? Well, we'll do a pebble sheen finish instead. Okay, fair enough. How much does that cost? Well, that's like $25,000. Okay, we want that. So we went from $250,000 to $25,000, but we're still selling the pool. So we're negotiating. And anyways, that's my story about just my father's ability to do that in business. It's so critical. And so learning how to negotiate works to reach agreements by balancing the interests of different parties. A manager negotiates project deadlines between senior leadership and the project team. The next role, and I'm sure all of you are familiar with this role, is the coach and motivator. And so you'll notice even in class, and I try to model this, I'm going to tell you, I believe in you, Harrison. I believe in you, Belle. I believe in you, Prudence. I believe in you. I think you can do it. I think you can be the leader that you've always wanted to follow. I know you can do it. That's me coaching you and motivating you. And leaders have to do that. Develops people by encouraging growth, provides feedback, and inspiring effort. So feedback, that's a big thing too. What I just said was a bunch of somewhat empty, generalized compliments or encouragement. But the real thing that I should do, and I'll use Prudence just because I'm familiar with her in other classes, is I have to tell you what you're not doing well. I have to give you feedback, not just positive feedback, but hey, here's what you're doing well, but here's some things that I think you can do better. Here's some ways you can improve as a student. Here's some ways that you can improve here at work. A leader has to do that as well. There's a great book by a lady named Kim Scott called Radical Candor. It's a wonderful book. And I'll mention one other one by a gentleman named Marshall Goldsmith. It's called What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And it means that leaders not only have to give feedback, but they have to receive feedback. Oh man, isn't that important? If you can't take it, don't dish it. So we have to realize as leaders that yes, we coach and motivate and we can give feedback. We also have to receive it from our team. We should actually seek out feedback from our team. How am I doing? Doing a good job? Did you like the video clip I just played? Do you enjoy working together as a group in the beginning of class, or would you prefer me just lecture and talk the whole time? Like, these are questions that, don't answer them now, but these are questions that if I wanted to be a good professor, I'm going to have to ask these questions. If you want to be a good leader, you have to ask the people, how am I doing? What can I do better? What is something I'm missing? So, okay, team builder. Creates trust, collaboration, and strong working relationships within a group. Trust, collaboration, strong working relationships in a group. This is another leadership role. An example would be a leader organizes structured team discussions so everyone feels heard and aligned, kind of like feeling included we talked about earlier. One of my favorites, not only are you a leader, you are also a team player. You are also a contributor. You're willing to put the boots on and get dirty. You're willing to get in and do the work yourself. Oh my gosh, so important. I wrote a book called Deemed Essential: Finding Greatness Through the Business of Serving Others. I don't have a copy with me, but it has a whole chapter about being a trade worker. What is it like to be a trade worker? Well, being a trade worker is tough sometimes because you're out there in the mud, and there's a great series called Dirty Jobs, which kind of talks about it. And what do you want from your leader? Well, you want them to bring you a Gatorade and put their boots on and help you dig this ditch. What do you want them just kind of standing there in their suit and telling you no, that's not helpful. I want you to help me. So being willing to be a team player, contributing actively to the group while putting team success ahead of personal recognition, huge. There's nothing worse than a leader who the team is successful and the leader stands up there and goes, yes, we're successful. Look at us. And look at me. I'm the leader of this team. And they have their leader badge on and they're saying, yeah, but what an idea as opposed to what I just said. And I don't mean to make poke fun of people who do that. Sometimes that's the figurehead role. That's the spokesperson role. But the reality is when that leader opens their mouth, or when I would open my mouth in a situation like that, I would immediately point to my team. I would say, hey, we are successful. And let me explain why. Because Jerry did a great job on that report, because Johnny pitched it really well, because Stephanie delivered. They did the work. Congratulate them. My team is amazing. If it wasn't for my team, I would be nobody. That's a leader. That's a leader, right? That's what you want leaders to do, to point out the reality of what the heck is going on and who in the heck is doing the work. Because a lot of times it ain't the leader. Okay, so a manager jumps in to help finish a report when a team is behind schedule. Yes. Inclusion facilitator ensures diverse perspectives are respected, included, and valued in decision making. We talked about this. Not having somebody included in the conversation means you're losing that intellectual capital. You're losing the, 40 years of experience that this person might have by simply not including them, which means that your team isn't going to perform as well as it could. So being an inclusion facilitator is vital as a role for a leader. So some of you right now say, oh yeah, I knew all this and maybe this is good content. And some of you are saying, hey, this is a lot of stuff that I have to be responsible for. And yes, it is. And that's why leaders are there. These are all the roles. You can't just be a spokesperson or you can't just be a team player. You have to play all of these roles. So let's keep going. Technical problem solving uses expertise and analytical thinking to address operational technical issues. An example would be a supervisor troubleshoots a workflow bottleneck that is slowing down production. So my wife, I told you she works in patient experience. She's a director of patient experience for 3 different locations for Baptist, the Homestead, the MCI, and South Miami. And she loves creating systems and charts, and she really enjoys the analytical aspect of it, sort of the back end and making sure that all of the questions and numbers and figures are there to make decisions. But she spends a good amount of time on it. So I explained to her, and she knows this, that she can't just be a technical problem solver. She's very good at it, and she's very analytical thinking, and she's unbelievable at communicating. But she also needs to jump in there and be with her team. She also needs to be a team player. She also needs to play some of these other roles. So anyways, I just thought of my wife when thinking about technical problem solving. One of my favorites, the entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship is a process, as well as leadership, of gathering resources to exploit value, essentially a unique way of putting resources together to create value in the marketplace. And an entrepreneur is also a leader. An entrepreneur makes things happen. So a leader has to be entrepreneurial in the way that they think, in the way that they act, especially nowadays within organizations that are super slow. A lot of these organizations, they're not growing and scaling, they're actually downsizing and they're actually shrinking. And so the people that are leaders within corporations, they have to figure out how to do more with less. And so having the ability to be creative, to have some sort of initiative and innovative capacity as a leader is very important. By the way, innovation, people misconstrue it. Innovation is is the ability to add additional value without putting additional resources in. So it's essentially, though I say it in some kind of way. So think about McDonald's for a second as an example. So McDonald's came out with a somewhat decent hamburger for a very low price. That's why McDonald's came onto the board. That's innovation. They were able to provide customers a really cheap price. It was maybe like 25 cents for a hamburger. And the hamburger was quick and of quality. That was extremely innovative. People have never seen that before. So it's just an example of innovation. There's process innovation, there's product innovation, and a leader has to know how to do that as an entrepreneur. Number 10 is strategy developer. There's a whole class that I teach. I think Prudence was in it. It was a strategic leadership class. And in a strategic leadership class, and I told you last class that sometimes culture eats strategy for breakfast, but that doesn't mean strategy isn't super important. So coming up with the ability to understand our strengths, understand our competencies, how do we put things together in order to win, beat the competition, leaders do that as well. And then last one, and then I'll say goodnight, and we will see each other next, I guess, Monday. And I hope you all, I'm not saying goodnight now, so let me finish this last one. So executor. Executor is, so my mom passed away in 2021, unfortunately, and my uncle was the executor of my mom's will. And so my parents were divorced and my mom was single when she passed away. So my sisters and I were the beneficiaries of her. We inherited what she had. And so my uncle made things happen. He had control of all of these resources. He had the ability to liquidate all of my mom's assets. He put it into a bank account. He hired a lawyer. He was the executor of the will. My mom had needs. She had her will. It had her, what do you call them? Her demands, her wishes, her last wishes, and my uncle had to execute on it. So I use that example just because I've been saying this word executor for such a long time now, because it's taken forever. But the reality is an executor gets things done. An executor turns plans into action, turns the will into giving money to a beneficiary, by ensuring tasks are completed effectively and on time. A project manager assigns responsibilities, tracks progress, and ensures deadlines are met. I see that you have a question, but let me just wrap up real quick, and then I'll answer your question. And so think about the leaders in a situation like this. This has never happened before. We're in outer space. We're dealing with variables that we have no idea what the heck is happening, and we don't know how to slingshot around moons. And this is a new situation. So this is what it's like, obviously, to not such an extreme of leading people all the time, every day, and not all the time every day. I mean, sometimes you're going to be in a situation where it's not ambiguous. You know what to do. You know how to perform. And then the next day, a customer calls in and wigs out on you and threatens to sue you and threatens to put you out of business. And you're like, well, what are we going to do now? How do we handle this situation? Some days you're going to show up to work and the people are going to be super happy and they're going to be ready to work for you and they're going to be ready to, serve the mission of the company. And some days they're going to show up and they might even curse at you and tell you that you're a jerk. And you're going to have to know how to respond to that situation. And so, or they might not even show up, or they might quit and go work for a competitor and steal 2 or 3 employees along the way. I mean, there's all sorts of situations that being a leader, you're going to thrust yourself into these situations. So my question to you, how do you handle or tolerate ambiguity? And as it tends to be that leaders are good at handling this. So, hopefully we're sort of progressing down this path of I'm trying to pitch to you the importance of leadership. I'm trying to pitch to you the importance of taking this subject matter seriously. And I'm trying to convince you that there are certain reasons to study leadership and that you were not born a good leader or a bad leader. That with the help of this class and with the help of some of these assignments, I promise together that we're going to grow and become the leaders that you've always wanted to follow. And just by hopefully hearing some of these stories, hearing some of the content that we talked about tonight, and listening to your fellow classmates talk about these concepts, we're already chewing on the subject matter. And I promise you, we're already becoming better leaders. It's so inspirational when you reflect on some of these leaders that one might consider to be heroes and think about their lives